All right, and welcome to this special episode of the Vonu Podcast, live on the PAZNIA Radio Network to kick off our Self-Liberation Saturday transmission. My name is Shane, aka Coordinator Rayo, and I'm coming to you from the Veritas node of the Free Republic of PAZNIA, the Self-Liberator's Paradise. To learn more about this burgeoning parallel network founded upon the principles of truth, peace, and voluntarism, please visit PAZNIA, P-A-Z-N-I-A.com. Again, PAZNIA.com is the link for all things PAZNIA. You can learn about the various departments, such as our Department of Health and Wellness, our PAZNIA Monero Department, our Department of Communications, Department of Transportation, and much, much more. Navigate on over to the Services and Marketplaces tab, and you'll see PAZNIA.chat, our self-hosted Jitsi server, Jitsi being an open-source encrypted Zoom alternative. That's right, you can spin up your own private encrypted chat room with whatever custom link you like, absolutely free to you. Further, you can connect to our PAZNIA Bitcoin Dojo node and start using the best privacy wallets in existence, trustlessly, other than, I guess, trusting PAZNIA versus some random node. But, Samurai and now Ashigaru. You can check out PAZNIA List, the Craigslist of the Second Realm, and if you're vetted and have received access, you can check out our vetted map and directory of the PAZNIA network. And finally, PAZNIA.com/radio is the home for all things radio. The schedule, ways to stream, ways to donate, how to start your own show here, etc. You can also make a one-time Monero donation by visiting xmrchat.com/PAZNIA Radio. And you can also, well, actually, no, you can't stream on Zap.stream because the last two times I've had issues there. So we're actually on Rumble instead of Zap.stream. So, but if you'd like to send us some Bitcoin, you just go to PAZNIA.com. But let's get on with it. Tonight I'm pleased to welcome Joey Phipps from Library of the Untold, one of the highest quality channels on YouTube. Diving deep into esoteric philosophy, science, the occult, breakthrough energy, spirituality, and much more. All topics that, if you're a listener to the Vonu Podcast, it's been a heavy part of my research over the past 5 years or so. About a year ago, I'd say, the YouTube algorithm blessed me with a recommended video on the Ringmakers of Saturn. Immediately, my ears perked up, and I dove in. It was a channel called Library of the Untold, and immediately the production quality was evident. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, as I was still new to this Saturn rabbit hole, at least at that point. The extent of my knowledge actually came about a decade before, in a meeting with who I call my mystery school mentor. In this private discussion at a bar in Central Illinois, he introduced me to the electric universe, I guess the overarching cosmology, alongside the Ringmakers of Saturn. At that time, a copy of the book was over $2,000, so I did not acquire a copy, if you were wondering. He didn't say much else beyond that. Basically, just brought it into my conscious awareness. I think making me ready for a moment such as this. From that time in 2012 to 2013, the more in-depth, yet still far incomplete understandings and research came later. Diving into G.I. Gurdjieff and other mystery school and occult knowledge, greatly assisted by the aforementioned channel, Library of the Untold. Now, if you peruse any video on Joey Phipps' channel, you'll immediately see the production quality. You'll probably keep watching as it's extremely entertaining, extremely mind-blowing, paradigm-altering information. And throughout, you'll hear original music by him. As a metal drummer who's just as picky on music as I am philosophy and freedom, this dude is the real deal on the drums. I can attest to that. I've struggled to play Carnet a couple times, but we'll talk about that later, maybe. The pen comment by Joey on his Ringmakers of Saturn video says it best. Quote, "When I started up on this subject, I was expecting a fun and paranormal video. The further in I dove into the implications, the crazier this became. It went from speculations of alien life to all-out possible explanations for physical reality and a simulated universe. I really feel like this buried nugget of information resurrects an entire esoteric platform concerning our human consciousness and how we interact with reality programming," end quote. Now let's go ahead and bring him in. Joey, brother, welcome to the Vonu Podcast Radio here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. How are we doing today?
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And bars in Central Illinois is where I meet all my guru esoteric mentors as well.
Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting to hear. Yeah, you're not far from me, which is good news. Considering, Vonu Fest is coming up, and we've talked about that privately, and maybe that'll come up later on at some point. But anyway, man, it's truly an honor, truly a pleasure, and feels like a long time coming. I think I've watched your Saturn videos about a dozen times each, if not more. I'm to consume most of the videos on your channel. Not all yet. There's probably a handful I haven't, but yeah, go ahead.
Man, there's like 3 of them now, isn't there?
Yeah, at
Three
least two.
Saturn ones.
At least two. Yeah, at least two.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, there's First Begotten Son, Ringmakers, and of course there's the first one, which is a animal all its own regard. It's got a life of its own by now.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
off and running.
Oh yeah, yeah. Certainly, certainly. And but yeah, I guess today, I figure we'll get to know you a bit since I don't actually know much about your background or how you got into these topics. Then I figure we'll discuss your book and music before we get into I guess the main topic, a very fitting Saturday discussion on Saturn. And I'm sure Gurdjieff will come up a couple times too. He's been another focus of mine. I'd like to get your thoughts, if any, on Gurdjieff and the fourth wave. But yeah, anyway, let's get into it. Fill me and my listeners in. What's your background? How'd you get into these topics, and what led you to starting Library of the Untold?
Okay. Well, the esoteric for me started out as the paranormal, as I guess any curious kid with Loch Ness monsters and Bigfoot, the Greys, all that stuff. And then you become a rebellious teenager, and that turns into conspiracy and occult and stuff like that. A lot of cheesy stuff, but a lot of doorways. And then becoming an adult right around 20-ish or whatever, I started realizing that all of the above were under the same umbrella of things that just don't get discussed in human life and happen to also be self-evident. So finding that there are many things, mysteries that are self-evident that we ignore, I decided to start looking at them more seriously, about 15, 20 years ago. But I didn't do anything with it because I married young and had kids, started a family, and did that life for 12 years. And during which time something about having a baby will really make you get your shit together. So
Sure.
I quit working in factories and I learned to read blueprints, and I found out everything I could about architecture so that I could ace an interview in the field of architecture. And my decision was to go with the St. Louis Glazers Union. They build skyscrapers. If you've ever seen a skyscraper where it's all glass all around the outside, we do the glass part,
Wow.
but also a lot of side gigs with smaller shops. Basically, put in the storefront glass for a Dollar General, whatever, just everything glass on buildings. And just as I suspected with starting a family, that's what brought the income. And I became moderately successful that way in the field of construction. And then everything collapsed because my wife at the time divorced me. She left me for another man. Not to get too personal, but this has a happy ending. Uh, which started my big dark night of the soul. Everybody thinks they have like a dark night of the soul whenever they go through troubles and everything. And I think a lot of them are real, but a lot of them are mistaken, because the dark night of the soul is when your entire identity actually shrivels and reduces to nothing. And that's what happened. So the dismemberment of my family was my entire identity and foundation. And that completely collapsed. And I was hovering as a nothing entity with nothing to identify with as a person.
Hmm.
So just the self. And as difficult as it was, I went ahead and eviscerated my 401k so I could buy a house and my pension, whatever, put down that down payment. I got a real beat up, this house right here. It was real beat up when I got it, but I took some time off and I fixed it up over the course of 3 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And just for fun, really, having chats with the guys on job sites or maybe at get-togethers or whatever, I would talk about some of these strange subjects that I mentioned earlier are self-evident, but people don't seem to know about.
Mm-hmm.
And half listened, half didn't, but on both ends, they all wanted to see what I was talking about. They'd say, "Do you have the declassified documents? Do you have measurements on that?" have sources on this or whatever. So just to kind of clarify some of those more intense discussions, I made a couple little videos like showing on my computer, what I was talking about, and I would send those to the guys that were asking about them. And then eventually I made a kind of a better one about the Zimbabwe school incident, UFO incident, where all 62 kids saw the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And I decided to go ahead and upload that on YouTube. And while I was uploading it, it was going to be called, the channel was going to be called Library of Understanding as like a pun. But then my oldest son, Jake, called me. He became a pipe fitter. And he was like, and I was just on the phone. I was like, what do you think of Library of Understanding, by the way? He's like, that's going to be hard to understand because it's a pun of understand. And I was like, what about, and I was in a black metal band called The Untold at the time. So I was like, I was looking over at the demo and I was like, what about Library of the Untold? He's like, that's it. And then just last minute, I typed that in and I uploaded that Zimbabwe video and it was neat. Nothing ever came of it. And then I decided to do it again with a video about the hexagon and on top of Saturn, how that ties to the occult. And then that video overnight, just not that night, but a couple weeks later, it hit big. It hit bigger than pretty much all videos ever do containing any subjects like that. And that was an anomaly, very strange, because even really popular subjects that are paranormal esoteric don't do that. They don't get millions of views. Like that would between Facebook, YouTube, and all the other places where it was hijacked and copied and re-released, it must be going on 20,000 like views or whatever. Mine personally, I think is like 1.5 million or something, like just very strange. I didn't deserve uh, that kind of success immediately. So I assumed then I must have done something right and that this is some kind of synchronicity or a reward for surviving what I just had recently survived and staying strong with it and keeping optimistic and all that. So, being that was successful, I was like, well, I might as well do another one. And I Lost Teachers of Man or something like that. I forgot what the name was actually, but that one did good too. And then the third one did good. And by the time I got to a video called Modern Mystics, that one shot up as successful at the time as that Saturn video did. And I was like, okay, we're onto something now. And right around the time of Ringmakers is when the paychecks started coming in, which you're not supposed to talk about, but whatever. I started realizing that this could be a career change for me. And I took off work for about 9 months and perfected everything to get it just right, what I needed to do. I made a routine for myself, studied rhetoric, how to say things best, how to do certain animations on the computer, things I didn't know about. And by the time I returned to work, the channel was now solid. It was like a hot unit it's a black hole of just it's roaring through the algorithm. So I'm off work again now. Blessed be whatever they say, and I'm set to maybe return to work. I don't know, next Monday or something like that. But I'm very fortunate to have something to fall back on. But it's been good, and I'm hoping to go all the way full time with this thing in soon.
Yeah.
That's the background.
Yeah, amazing, man. That's yeah, amazing. I love it. I guess a question that comes to my mind is so the metal, the black metal band, you were in that before you started the channel. Was metal just did I guess music come before all these esoteric stuff, or was it all wrapped in
Right.
together? Was
Yeah.
it basically these interests were all consuming, so everything you did basically circulated around those things was how it was for me, but I don't know how it was for you.
Well, metal is what tied all of that paranormal weird stuff into music. So in a way, it was kind of a mistake because I've always been a musician. I've always played piano since I was like 3, and like that the album by Counting Crows called August and Everything After was on repeat for me as a child, and then that moved into Green Day, the Dookie album, and then becoming a teenager, you discover Korn and Cold Chamber, and then that turned into black metal. Of course, was Cradle of Filth and Do Newborn Gear. But they were the first for me to realize that all this occult stuff could be tied into music, and they go hand in hand. So I was into that for a long time until I kind of slowly started to realize that side, that the metal side of the esoteric pretty much only embraces the dark aspects of it. So it was kind of no longer for me as a main route. I still continue to write and record songs that embrace the shadow element of the psyche, because that's what metal is inherently. But the music calmed down. I started writing more ambient stuff, melodic stuff, and which came in handy later because I use them for the soundtracks now for the
Right.
episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool, very cool. And looks like the stream's just crashed, unfortunately. But we're recording, so I guess it'll just be pre-recorded and premiered live. But whatever,
They're
is what it is. But yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I got into metal very early when I was 18, and I was very into there's a genre, literally a subgenre of metal called politicore, which I'm sure you're familiar with, where
I'm
it's
not.
well, it's basic, like, so there's bands like Molotov Solution, I guess like Affiance would fall into it, but like bands that talk about political stuff, conspiracy, anti-government, that sort of thing. It's just an entire like subgenre. It's my favorite subgenre of metal. Um, but yeah, I got into that early and was passing out. I thought about this just a couple weeks ago, but went to Warped Tour in Chicago in 2012 and was passing out Libertarian Tag business cards telling people they were slaves. So it's been a long time. But anyway, man. I guess one question pertaining to your music. I bought both of your albums because I wanted to drum some of them. And I guess a question here for the PAZNIA Radio Network. Would you be okay with us spinning some tracks here? Spinning your
Oh,
music on the network.
I insist. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, cool. Right on, right on. We'll definitely do that, and the listeners will get if they haven't already, they'll get a taste whenever when I close out the video. I'll play Carnate for him. It's one of my favorite tracks of yours. But anyway, let's jump forward here to your book, which I've not had a chance to read yet. I've got a huge stack of books and I want to read. And I'm in the middle of Gertrude's Beelzebub Tales to His Grandson, which is like 1,400 pages. So I'll be busy this year with that. But your book is on the list. It's called what's it called? The Book of Wonderful Suffering: The Common Ground of Science and Spirituality. Could you tell us a bit about that and when you wrote it, and give us a background and overview?
Yeah, I started the book as a kind of a Pillars of Living pamphlet for my son to have if I was no longer available or when he became old enough, whatever. And it just kind of, I worked on it bit by bit, month by month. This was way before the channel. And as I was kind of finishing the book is when I had my Dark Night of the Soul event, and I wrote the rest of it during that transition, which I guess might have coined its name. But the book is not conspiracy, it's not paranormal, and it's almost not even esoteric. It's more of philosophy and how easy it is to lead a good life without needing much. And it goes into the spiritual aspect of that pretty much right off the bat, how materialist science, the dogma that is that, ignores everything that it can't see. So what we're stuck with is a science that studies only a very small fraction of what reality is. For example, if science was completely not aware of cell phones like what we're doing now, and we were to tell them that we were beaming a signal to each other remotely, modern day science would actually deny that and say it doesn't exist and that it's a hoax. And so I applied that philosophy to a lot of other things that science dismisses as there's not being evidence of it. And I put tons of examples about how it actually is not only evident, but uh, very self-evident. And what I might mention to you about the book is that you don't have to read it cover to cover as like a dedicated thing. Each chapter is an isolated unit on its own. So it's like the stuff I just chatted about, that's like chapter 1, you know. But then if you go to like chapter 6, it talks about how sacrifice now leads to rewards later on many different aspects and different levels, physically and spiritually. And I mean, there's a chapter that goes into the grays, which takes you for a left hook, you know. But basically, I wanted to have it printed up, a nice little pamphlet or whatever, put on my shelf for my son later. And the guy, I guess, who worked at the place to print these things or whatever, emailed me, which led to a phone call. And he was like, dude, he's like, you've got something here. I didn't expect him to read it or anything. But he was like, can I hook you up with like a publisher or whatever? And that publisher happened to be Barnes and Noble, and who I'm not a big fan of anymore. But Barnes and Noble published the book. You can get it now at Barnes and Noble or at Amazon. Um, Amazon jacked up the price, which I don't recommend that, but that's whatever. But yeah, that led to it getting published. And moving forward, once I write a second book, I might republish that one under a different publisher, considering that Barnes and Noble is terrible. But that's the story of that.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to to checking it out. I will find links and put those in the show notes for folks.
Sure.
So I suppose, so I guess, yeah, we talked a little bit about your music, but yeah, I guess I'll just mention in passing that yeah, Vonu Fest this year is shaping up to be another amazing event. Joey, we've talked about, he's planning on coming, obviously, and he can't guarantee shit comes up, but he's planning on coming out. And I guess I think you said you were considering bringing a guitar. So yeah, I guess that could be something that happens at Vonu Fest, you know, a live jam session or something.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, I guess you're going to, you know, maybe bring a talk or a workshop or something, which would be amazing as well. So for folks who want to come out to Vonu Fest 6, September 22nd to 29th, and here at the Veritas Node of the Free Republic, it's about an hour and a half east of St. Louis. It is a vetted event, but just email me, coordinator at PAZNIA.com. If you want to get vetted, it's usually not that hard, but we gotta, you know, make sure we get we want real self-liberators, real freedom pioneers out here, no bullshitters. So we gotta have and also, you know, just a layer of security. Things are crazy in today's world. So anyway, man, hopefully that all pans out. I'm really looking forward to it. And if my mystery school mentor can come, if he's able to bring a guitar, he's a metal guitarist too. So yeah, that'd be interesting. I'm looking forward to it all. But
Let's start a band, dude.
we should. I'm actually working towards right now. I have an audio interface that was you know, I guess gifted and an audio interface for like recording drums. So I'm thinking about I'm working towards that now. Just got to get the microphones. So yeah, for sure, man, for sure. But yeah, I suppose let's jump forward here. The long-awaited topic, the big topic of Saturn. So obviously, your videos I think are probably 2 hours on it, and those are those are the what I'd recommend people go check out. But I think a good overview now, and like I said at the beginning, and I guess a comparing of notes, because there's one element here that I was thinking about before our show, before we started, and yeah, I don't know, it's fascinating. But anyway, my short overview on Saturn. But basically, for me, it's changed over the years to like when I was listening to Bill Cooper. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but I guess when I think about Saturn, I view it more of like a Satan interpretation from Christianity, like what I was raised in. And now it's more something like Saturn representing the beginning and the end of this say solar system, hologram, cosmic computer, etc. So, and I guess the other element here that was big, I mentioned that alongside Remakers of Saturn was electric universe cosmology that was introduced to me over a decade ago, and as you've talked about, you know, Saturn used to have a much closer relationship with the Earth, what was it, the northern, the northern polar configuration or whatever it was called, where Saturn was more prominent in the sky than even the sun is to us today. And there's also the association that the further we are from Saturn, the celestial shell, the lower the Yuga cycle. So, like the lower the consciousness of humanity. And obviously, like if I look around, I see a very, low consciousness, very low consciousness, generally speaking. But, and I guess the other element here that I'll toss in, and this is kind of the original, I guess maybe the original thing that I'd like your thoughts on. And I have to preface it with, this past Vonu Fest, our buddy John Gear, he's been perfecting his Ormus or monoatomics, orbitally rearranged monatomic element harvester, and he actually demonstrated, put one together here at the property, and it was, and I guess just I can't go through the entire thing because I'm gonna have him put together a tutorial to make it available on how to do this, because it's like $50 worth of stuff from Lowe's or Home Depot, like it's super cheap, but I guess he's got magnets around the top. And you have river rock in the bottom, clean river rock. And then you've got a couple, like a water inlet. And you turn on the water just enough to where, like, right below the point where you can visibly see it rotating, like the rings of, like rings, before you can actually visibly see the rotation. And I mentioned that to my mystery school mentor, and he paused for a few seconds, and he said that the technology that I described there with the Ormus harvesting is very similar to the tech on Remakers of Saturn. Which kind of sent me for a loop, kind of trying to think about how that could be. But I don't know. I guess that's kind of the opening I have for Saturn. And I don't know if you have any comments on that, or if you have any other introductory things or anything else you'd like to bring up. Please do.
I think what you're saying is certainly on the right track. I don't. So whenever people say the cosmic hard drive, like we're living in a simulation, I can't help but maybe interject right there, because we are living in a sci-fi culture. So we see the world through a language that sci-fi is familiar with sci-fi. So in a computer age of technology, that we also bear that language as well. So when people say simulated universe, we get this idea that we live within a software or a digital program or whatever. And I really don't think that that's the case. But the way that that can make sense, though, is easy if you look at what computers are made out of in the first place with their hardware. So, you've got microchips that utilize gold and crystals, quartz, and electricity, plasma, and these items that are in a computer are what cause it to compute, thus make, create, and retain things that are within that world inside the computer. Well, our universe happens to be made out of exactly those things as well, and so much more. So there's things we don't know that we don't know out there. And that's pretty much obvious. But what we fail to recognize is that the universe is sort of a natural computer in that way, and it's doing things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're inside of a program or a software, but that the entire universe works like that. But no coincidence, because us designing the same thing on Earth is just a case of as above, so below. And that is what we're within, is sort of a natural precursor version of our own technology. Now, whether or not that particular, call it a, universe or whatever, that world that we're in is overseen by intelligent entities, that's a whole nother question, because ring makers definitely seems to endorse that idea. DMT definitely seems to endorse that idea. Every religion on earth, mythology, our gut instinct, everything else seems to endorse that idea as well. So I certainly cannot deny it. However, I've never seen any of them outside of DMT. So it becomes a bit of a gray area for me. Still, if I had to bet, I'd say that we are surrounded by entities that don't have free will of their own, but nevertheless do their job of creating and destroying the world bit by bit, all the time, always. And I think that given if they are there, we have a conundrum where humans have given them the names angels and demons, jinn, whatever different categories we put them in, because our dualistic language, our dualistic world is made of opposites, in this case, good and bad. So we describe those things as good or bad, angels, demons, when really they're all the same autotomic spiritual robots that don't have free will of their own, but are creating the world, our reality, according to what we expect quantumly, what our collective dream and subconscious mind creates in every second is their job to follow swiftly behind and physically create those things on behalf of what we're thinking. And then they're confused when we call them either angels or demons because they know that they are neither. And we just decide to give them those two categories based on if we like the results that they build or if we don't like the results that they build. All along, the results that they build only and simply come from our mind. So they depend on us to exist, and we physically depend on them to exist in this dance of yin and yang back and forth. And which causes eggs within eggs, worlds within worlds forever up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, and I appreciate the explanation because I guess I don't know the holographic or you like I guess that sort of mindset seems a little mystical to me. So I appreciate that explanation. And I mentioned I was digging into Beelzebub Silsu's grandson by Gurdjieff, and for some context on that for folks who aren't familiar, it's kind of written like a fiction book, basically him telling stories to his grandson. And he's this being from a different solar system that's like 14,000 years old or something, and he's basically just basically it's supposed to encapsulate like the entirety of like not just like human existence on Earth, but like everything and like this in this book. But the part that's relevant here is he talks about his second descent to, or he gets exiled actually to this solar system, and the entry point to this solar system, the first place that he visits is Saturn. And I guess it wasn't necessarily a gas giant back then, but it was actually a planet. And he went and spent some time with the scientist who showed him how their spacecraft were operated with 0 point energy basically, and all of that. But the interesting point here, which was kind of the correlation with your Remakers of Saturn video, is okay. So Gurdjieff is also saying that Saturn is the entry point to this solar system, which demystifies it a little bit. Like it's at least a little bit in my sense. It's that there's human sort of beings that may have lived for may live much longer than our conception on Earth. And I guess the other interesting part too, which I'm sure you've heard in New Age circles, is kind of like the quarantine on Earth, basically. He also kind of talks about that a little bit, that there were two instances. In the first instance, it caused some ripples effect in the cosmos, some problems. So I guess Gurdjieff would also attest to like that there is a quarantine in the solar system, and that the cap to that might be Saturn. So that might be why the conception of Saturn is like enslavement or entrapment, like that sort of conception. So I know like this is like a lot of people. There's some folks who might as like just nod their head sideways at looking into a fiction book to try to gather an understanding about the solar system or whatever. But it resonates in all sorts of areas. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. Whenever they describe a ripple effect that echoes throughout the cosmos, that's easily what would be described by the Gnostic Gospels as the fall of Sophia. Whenever spirit, psyche, whatever it is, becomes matter. And that was definitely a big event. And then those involved, I'm sure, were very curious about where that's going to go in this new material world that happened due to some sort of cosmic event. which ties to the electric universe. I'll talk about in a minute, but it wanted to know, can this material world re-find their way into spirit while being blind and ignorant, which is something I think we're all working on. And that's alchemy, that's the essence of alchemy. So alchemy and Gnosticism, hand in hand, those are not different things. Alchemy is actually the art of refining what the Gnostics had already hypothesized. But the question is, how did the fall happen? So there's obviously a religious answer to that, but that is old language. And what I think might be the new language for that can be explained partially by the electric universe model that you just mentioned. So here's what's weird. None of my Saturn videos, I didn't know anything about the electric universe model. I was just going off of some misunderstood science, not on my behalf, but science nonetheless, and mysticism and mythology. But I discovered the electric universe model only a couple months ago, actually, due to the Thunderbolts project. Oh, yeah. So according to the electric universe model, Saturn, Jupiter, these gas giants don't have a rocky planet in their core, like we are assuming. We're assuming that the universe is mechanical, but our numbers don't work for that. So we need fillers like dark matter and all these different things to make it make sense now. Whereas actually everything is electric, everything's plasma. So I knew before this that plasma on Earth can create its own dust just to fuck with researchers, it seems. Probably more reasons than that, but nevertheless, not much time to go into it, but you can look it up, and plasma will play pranks on its researchers, oftentimes by creating its own dust out of nothing. Well, according to the electric universe model, the universe is plasma, the sun is plasma. So what most likely happened that we call the fall, that is spirit into matter, is when plasma creates dust. The sun most likely ejected planets out of it birthed planets, as opposed, because in the mechanical universe model that we have now, suns catch planets gravitationally, they start orbiting them, which leaves a huge obvious hole. Where did the planets come from? Where did it all come from in the first place? Where did matter come from in the first place? That's why they say the universe is 99% plasma, because we have planets, rocks. But if suns, that is plasma, create their own dust, that means the sun ejected planets from itself, creating its own dust. And that's the fall. That's the Gnostic fall of Sophia. And now we can probably start to hypothesize that the universe isn't 99% plasma. It's 100% plasma. And sometimes electricity becomes so condensed and slow in vibration that it appears to us as physical matter, like stone and planets and water and people. However, that divine spark from the original source, Sophia, or the sun, is still within us. And that divine spark can be realized through gnosis. And I think, again, in a as above, so below way, what we're doing on Earth in labs with plasma is exactly what the universe has been doing all along.
Yeah, yeah. Goethe would call it the ray of creation, or I guess the absolute. I think, but yeah, no, that's no, I resonate with a lot of that, and it brings to mind another point I want to talk about in correlation with Saturn was the moon. And in one of your videos, I think it was one of your videos, and I haven't dug into. There's a book that David Icke wrote on Saturn, I think, which I still have to pick up because there's not actually that much material on Saturn. But he, I guess his take is that the moon acts as an antenna, amplifying signals from Saturn. And I've heard this, I've dug into this a lot from different angles. But yeah, the moon being artificial, and that there was a time on Earth, if you look back in ancient societies, like there was a time before the moon, and I guess there's like folks like Jason Resser Johnny would say, the moon was dragged into place basically, was artificial. The Earth was uninhabitable before the moon was brought in. Like you consider how much impact the moon has on the Earth. It's pretty significant. And then Gurdjieff would go even further and say that we're food for the moon. That all organic life on Earth is basically food for the moon. And he would say the same thing about astrology and planets too. But the liberating thing about the fourth way is that once you acknowledge it, you can break free from those influences. But there's this thing. There seems to be this thing that happens with the moon. That, or I guess, Gurdjieff talks about this. That if the organic beings outpace, or I guess if their evolution is too quick versus the moon, that's when some of these catastrophes happen. Like when Mother Nature is like, calm the fuck down. Like you can't be moving that fast. Like that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know if you got any takes on that.
Yeah. So I love Ike. He's a lovable guy. However, he sees everything through the lens of conspiracy. Therefore,
True.
in turn, the theory turns into the moon being evil and archons feeding on our suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think that is a very specific and oversimplified version of what we just do to ourselves. So to make that kind of make sense, the moon came in and it changed everything. Ancient civilizations talk about a time before the moon. And it definitely has some kind of conjunction with Saturn. Maybe Saturn ejected it as well. I don't know. But for whatever the case is, it definitely regulates things on Earth, like the tides. And we will associate that with regulating us because we are that also. There's no difference between us and tides. So whenever the solar system, how the Hopi people describe their lineage going back to when Venus and Mars had a electrical discharge between them, a thunderbolt, believe it or not. It was making its way through. Something happened involving the moon orbiting Earth, and then that becoming the fall, now physical matter, because of the change in physics there, caused us to be in this so-called simulation where some higher beings somewhere saw that and they thought to themselves, we can't, these are living entities now, even though they're strange and physical and tangible, they still have the divine spark. We should reintroduce them back into, the subtle realms. And then the other people were like, no, this is an experimental mistake, a syntax error. We need to wipe out the whole thing, erase it. To which somebody somewhere called them maybe the Galactic Federation or whatever, or archangels or whatever. We're like, that's not quite fair. We have to see if these tangible new beings can alchemize themselves, realize spirit while they're blind. So let's isolate it. Let's make sure it doesn't spread. By the way, speaking of which, mainstream cosmology is just now finding out that we might live in a void and be separated far away from all other stars and star systems, which is interesting because that goes with this. But I think they isolated it to see so that no interference involved can see if we can realize spirit. However, some entities do sneak in and want to help us realize spirit, like, the event at Fatima and lots of other things. But we're physically, tangibly prohibited from exploring those outside realms. That'd be a spoiler. But we're not psychically inhibited from exploring those realms either. We can leave the body. And for some people, it comes natural. For me, I can't. So I have to use hallucinogens to do so. But it's definitely worth doing in the right regard, with the right mindset, with that particular goal in mind. However, to answer the question about Ike and all that and the moon, I don't think it's evil. I think that they want to see what we do, to see if we can be reintroduced back into the cosmic, the Galactic Federation, whatever you want to call it. Different names, same story, right? But this gets confused with evil because we're prohibited. It's neutral. Everything is just neutral. They want to see if we end up good or bad. That way they wipe it out with another Yuga cycle or be reintroduced into a 5-dimensional Earth, incorporating physical matter into spirit. That's why every religion on Earth has the same theme. What we do here echoes throughout eternity, and we will be judged not as individuals, but as a collected whole, as one moss on a rock. It's almost a scientific experiment that nobody wanted in the first place, but now we're stuck with it. Now, archons and Loosh, all that, and Yaldabaoth, right? All that shit. What they associate as the result of the fall of Sophia, plasma creating matter, is associated with evil because we're suffering. We suffer here. We have to survive here. On this realm, we have to eat suffering. It doesn't matter if you're an animal or a vegetarian or the most devout vegan on earth. We have to eat death to survive. That's what we get for being tangible in the first place. This is original sin, not our fault, but the original sin. But it's not something that should be associated with evil or bad. That's just a side effect of being tangible. So, there's been a lot of complications since then, augmentations of our DNA, head starts here and there. Oannes and the Dogon people talk about these beings from other realms that try to give us a head start, but they're not allowed to give us a head start voluntarily. They have to sneak it. They sneak to Earth, manifest themselves in various ways, Thoth, Egyptian, Pantheon, all these. They sneak in as if we were to become an avatar inside a video game. They come into our reality the same way that we create a Sims character. So, of course, they're not always going to be human. They're going to be odd-looking fish, birds, plumed serpents, these things, reptiles. But they want us to succeed in realizing what we are, where we came from. Here's the problem. We are ignorant of where we came from, so we choose willingly survival mindset in the tangible. Because of survival mindset, it's kill or be killed. We have to eat suffering, eat death. So we are archons. We are Yaldabaoth. That's what we physically, tangibly are. So whenever we hurt each other, we blame archons and we say that they're harvesting our Lelouch. Yes, that is happening, but it's not anyone else objectively. It's us. We are archons. The state of nature that makes us tangible, physical, and have to eat to survive is what archons is. And now a lot of what I say in general is speculation. However, on this particular hill, I'm pretty much prepared to stand and die on. I am damn near convinced that even though sentient life forms do exist outside of our biological sensing and abilities to detect, despite that fact, these things called jinn, archons, demons, Lelouch, those are not objectively real creatures outside of us. Mm-hmm. They're not even subjective creatures that depend on us to exist like these DMT entities. Those are confused with astral entities. The archons are just simply our biological need to survive, causing us to harm each other, thus benefiting from the things that we've hurt, like building a house or eating food. All of the rudimentary, simple, regular things that we are required to do to survive is what archons are.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah, it reminds me something I always appreciated that Bill Cooper said, and he would talk about. People say like, "Oh, the devil made me do it." It's like, no, if you did it yourself. Like, it's
Yep.
that sort of a mindset. There's no
Right.
because I guess it's a great it's overlaid with some music. It's a really powerful clip, but it's
And
basically.
that explains, by the way, I love Bill Cooper too, and he died early.
Mhm.
Um, you notice that he went from aliens and UFOs are real to humans create this as a false flag, right? Remember, he made that transition in
Yeah.
his career. That transition, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's not really, but I think today, if he were alive, he might realize that the reason for that transition is the realization that we project these things as archons and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess just to toss in another interesting side point there, I'm sure after much much thought and thought and reflection on the USO that he saw come out of the ocean back in
Mhm.
his Navy days. Yeah, probably yeah, that'd be pretty powerful to see, I would think. Um, but
Now, let me clarify real quick, though. By the way,
yeah,
I don't think that we project UFOs psychically, like Carl Jung
okay,
insisted. In fact, at the end of his life, he changed his mind on that as well. But it wasn't in his UFO book; it was in his end of life biography at the very end of the book, actually. But I don't think we project those psychically. I think that there is another race of biological people, by definition, people, maybe not human, but people who live on this planet with us. They lived on the surface once upon a time, but we get in trouble on the surface a lot. About every 6,000 years, actually, everything is all goes all messed up, right?
Mhm.
That's what the record shows, at least, or at least the lack of record. But I think we share the planet with them. And at one point, they became advanced like we are now and decided to go into the oceans. And that's why UFOs come out of the oceans all the time and not from space,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're talking. They hope he talked about the ant people who
Yeah,
looked a lot like gray aliens, but
right.
they were
Underground.
basically like a race of like a segment of the human race that never sees the sunlight. It does a lot. It changes your biology a lot. If you
Right.
live underground, certainly.
Right.
Um,
And that, I mean, that brings up another point too about Agartha. It wouldn't just be the oceans. Another sect of these, they would have split up and went all over the place. Some of them went underground, which is hard to imagine because in a mechanical universe that we have now, it depends on pressure, thus meaning that the core of the earth would be molten and hot from all that pressure, right? Which isn't necessarily wrong. We know about pressure, but it's all jacked up and needs a lot of explaining. Whereas if the universe is electric, there's no issue with the earth being a geode. Whereas the beautiful parts of it are actually on the inside. Not that it's hollow, but that there's huge pockets of crystal that are accessible and can be lived in. And the closer you get to that center point, like the brain and the pineal gland, the closer you get to the realm of mind only, or what some people would call magic, because the dwellers in Agartha are said to possess magic and pass it on to people like Egypt, who then did magic. But this magic is simply a way of hacking reality. I have no people. A lot of people think I'm like a debunker because I say things like archons are us and not real and blah blah blah. I have no problem with UFOs in the ocean or Agartha being in existence, and I have no issue absorbing the idea that ancient people who were advanced decided to go there instead of being on the surface. And sometimes those two realities will meet, and we call it supernatural.
yeah. Yeah, certainly. Well, this is great stuff. I have to remind folks that this is Esoteric Saturn Saturday on the PAZNIA Radio Network. We are not live right now, but hopefully when Cloak and Dagger comes back on at 3, I can get that figured out. I don't know what happened. I'm not sure what happened, but regardless, the archive and recording will be there, and we will do a nice little premiere for it too. But oh gosh, where do we go from here, man? Where do we go from here? I guess there was one thing that came to mind, kind of going back to, like there's, these archangels or whatever trying to bring us back into the fold, and they intervene where they can, but they have to do it kind of, covertly, harkening back to Beelzebub again. One of his descents to Earth. That's what he did. He went and met with a priest, and basically it's like 20 pages. I like it. 20 pages of him basically just saying like, you humans can't just kill each other. Like you're all pieces of the divine. You're killing pieces of our common creator. And like it's basically just like 20 straight pages of like him basically harping on this priest about like of why Earth is in the position that it is, and how what they need, like what needs to be fixed in order to be brought back into into the higher folds, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I mean, like a lot of the stuff that seemed kind of out there to me, a few years ago, which back in 2020 times, I was basically consuming everything I could find. A lot of it was kind of new age nonsense, and I was like, there's probably some truth in here, but there's a lot of bullshit. I know there is.
Yeah.
So like there's a common line of truth. Like there's these
like
common threads
anything.
of truth that you can
Right.
find throughout, though. Yeah.
That's everything. So just to clarify, some people find something about the esoteric that is debunked, and then they dismiss everything else. I would encourage those people to look at anything else, politics, the news, or human interactions, talking back and forth and whatnot. There's bullshit wall to wall. And in fact, the esoteric, even though there's some whack shit in there and new age, whatever, flu stuff, foo-foo, it's the same thing. You're going to get that. So discernment is key with all of it, from politics to the news to the esoteric. You're going to have a pocket of bullshit that gets that ends up looking like this. And by the way, people send me this all the time. Quit sending it to me. But I've got like 12 of those now. Nonsense, page cover to cover. But not all. But like you were saying, though, it's not all nonsense. A lot of it is, but it ruins the rest of it that way. I try to use discernment in that way, where I don't dismiss a story just because it's been debunked. Because even the craziest story that has been debunked came from the mind, and that's worth looking into, And and you were talking about Lucifer and fallen angels and all that stuff. We tend to consider those things to be supernatural as well. I don't think they're supernatural. I think that it's actually got a rudimentary biological explanation, and not to get too far out there, but I think all of that shit came from Mars.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess thinking back to what so I guess Mars was I think one of the second stops for Beelzebub. And I guess Jason Residual Johnny, and this is talked about by mainstream science too, that there's what isotopes on Mars that are only results of like nuclear war.
On that, that is interesting, and it makes us think of the war in heaven, Hindu Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and it makes us think that aliens had a nuclear war on Mars, and it's very intriguing. And I'm not dismissing that at all, because there's a gray area here. But the isotopes on Mars that signify nuclear war can be explained by the electric universe model as natural.
Could they? Okay.
It couldn't happen in a mechanical universe that we decided on today with our scientific materials dogma, but in an electric universe model, oh yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. Because if I think about this in Walter Russell's periodic table of elements, in that sort of a sense, like these radioactive isotopes are, they're the very, they're the highest density, highest accumulation of electricity. So yeah, if there was a big enough electric discharge to mirror the pressure conditions of that radioactive,
if
isotope,
we
then
can
it's possible,
create
I
it,
suppose.
the universe can.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Because all technology we create is basically just a bastardized version of what the universe does anyway. So yeah.
Right. Alchemy.
Yeah. Wow. It's been an hour, but I'm wondering where the listeners are at. I know we've talked about these subjects before, but like I said, your channel is one of the absolute best. And there's only there's Mystery School Mentor, and there might be like one or two of the people on the planet that I can have these deep conversations with, like
Well,
to this extent.
I think what makes the channel special is that it's not on one fence or the other. It doesn't take a side, which is way easier said than done. But every YouTube channel concerning the esoteric has two choices, or so they think. Either they're all in and everything is mystical, or they're a debunker, right? Um, Whereas Y-Files kind of gets passed on, they tell the story for the sake of enjoying the story, but then debunk it at the end. My channel is the opposite of both of those fences, saying that, well, it's not supernatural and it's not mystical, but it did happen. These things do happen. What we have is a mix up of language. Whenever we see something that is hard to explain, we call it mystical and spiritual and paranormal and supernatural. Those words, the words alone, not what they represent, but just the mouth noise alone is what causes those things to be debunked. Those things, however, that those words are representing are self-evident, and they're here in front of us right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. So yeah, I do want to, like I said, I've been going for an hour. I do want to respect your time, and that is a lot. I mean, there's like 75 different lines of research people could go down from this short conversation to today.
Yeah, right.
But I guess one question I have for you. I know you're as avid a reader as me, if not more so. And I know how Gurdjieff's books have definitely tangibly changed my life and my perspectives on things. So I know how impactful they can be on my life. So I'm sure it's hard to choose just one, but is there one, two, three books that that immediately come to mind to you that were that were that powerful for you, that impactful?
Yes. Resounding yes. So I want to preface this though by saying I'm actually not an avid reader. I don't read books cover to cover. And I read maybe about 20 minutes a day before bed, but that gets volumes in. If you wouldn't believe how many books you read in a year by just reading 20 minutes a day.
Right.
But to answer that question, yes, there are some books that I didn't have a choice but to read cover to cover and go all the way in on. And I would love to share those with you. First of all, let me go in my bedroom here because this one's on my nightstand.
Mm-hmm.
But so just the one, I guess the most recently is Mysticism and the New Physics by Michael Talbot.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
This is an old, wrinkled up, yellowed, ripped up. Someone wrote it as used. This is the perfect example of don't judge anything by the way it looks, because this is dog shit production wise. This is, however, one of the best books I've ever read in my life. Mysticism and the New Physics, which was written by Michael Talbot.
Yeah, so he wrote the Holographic Universe, and then the Electric Universe guy, David Talbot, put out that documentary, Symbols of an Alien Sky. I wonder if they're related. They've got the same last name.
Birds of a feather, right? But yeah, I was going to say, I got the Holographic Universe as well, but it's good, pales in comparison to Mysticism and the New Physics. And then I found out that he used to have a lot of paranormal shit happen to him when he was a kid, and he's also gay. I don't know if this will lead anywhere later, but Ingo Swann was gay, and declassified CIA documents show recruitment programs to find psychics and remote viewers, and they specified find only gay men. I don't know what's going on with that, but something about being gay makes you psychic. I'm working on turning gay. It's just hard, easier said than done. I've got a few books by Freddie Silva. This one I'm reading about crop circles, and it's good, whatever. But when it comes to Freddie Silva, this one, Lost Art of Resurrection, is amazing for anybody who is interested in the esoteric and finding that divine spark within. Speaking of Ingo Swann, of course, Penetration. I've got several of Ingo Swann's books, He's got a real big one here called Resurrecting the Mysteries. I like that one too.
Who Built the Moon right behind me.
Yeah. And then Who Built the Moon is anyone who loves the crazy shit, dude.
Yeah,
all right, so
the Saturn Moon conversation. You got to read that book if this piques your interest.
Right. So, Who Built the Moon and this other one by Monuments of Mars. Where is it at? By Hoagland. Are Birds of a Feather. Those two books together will take you on a crazy ride. So if you're into the crazy weird shit, those two books. Now let me see here. I gotta shout out Chris Dunn. If your thing is the pyramids, Giza Power Plant is easily the best book on pyramids. I have all three.
Recently,
I just had him, at my house, dude. It was crazy.
That's badass.
He saw the show. He loves the show, and he was like, "I'm gonna come there." But he's got three books that are definitely all worth it. Let's see. Okay, when it comes to plasma physics and how it affects the Earth, Robert Schoch, Forgotten Civilizations. That was a cover-to-cover reader for me. Obviously, we have all of Graham Hancock's stuff. That's you got to have that, right? But I don't read any of Graham Hancock's books cover to cover because he drones on about the details. But the book Supernatural is so fucking good that I read all 700 pages of it, and then I went out and bought the same book again under the name Visionary, and now I got both of them. A beautiful one is the drugs, Secret Drugs of Buddhism. I bought this book just because it's really well made and beautifully illustrated, but it turns out it's quite a gem because we are all under the impression that these ancient Zen masters and whatever, that they had these things naturally, and they did, but there was some hallucinogens involved. And speaking of hallucinogens, this one right here, this book, I'll safely say, is almost one of the primary catalysts of my entire channel. The Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby changed the way I look at everything. I tried emailing him. I can't get his email. I can't find him. But that book tells an incredible story. The way he discovered what he discovered is second to none when it comes to storytelling. This one is crazy. This one's really hard to get, In Plain Sight by Gloria Farley, and it's huge. No one really knows about it, and it's an expensive bitch. But this common, regular, everyday housewife started seeing like symbols etched into stone in nearby caves. And she wrote that book based on an ancient lost civilization that once was global. And it's written by a soccer mom. And it is awesome. It goes to show you that you don't have to have a degree to do incredible things. I think everyone knows about this one, Alien Information Theory. It's about DMT, but it goes into the science of DMT. Let's see what else. Okay. The Psychedelic Gospels. And you'll see there, it's illustrated with tons of images of Jesus with mushrooms. Yeah. And Jesus was a fan of the mushrooms. You remember the Eucharist and the bread. You know, whenever he said, "Eat the bread, you'll see my Father," or "Drink the wine, and then you'll come back down to earth." In so many words, I get that wrong, but that was the idea. Well, it turns out red wine brings you down from psilocybin mushroom trip. Yeah. And then, of course, Doors of Perception is about peyote, and it's written by a straight poet. Aldous Huxley, who's a fiction writer, wrote one book that's nonfiction based on his peyote trip alone. Being a fiction writer, he was able to choose phrasings and words that are beautifully.
I think I found one of his fiction books, but I can't remember what it's called. Yeah.
And they're all worth it. They're all good. Shit. Okay. So I got David Bohm's Wholeness in the Implicate Order. I just ordered this on Amazon. I didn't realize I had it. This is what happens whenever you're a fucking hoarder. Damn, I'm going to have to return that for something else. All right. What the hell? And then, okay, my whole top shelf is all ancient spiritual Gnostic shit. I got the Book of Enoch, which you got to get all three. The companion Bible is good because it's got definitions in it. Let's see here. Here's another one. This Lost Books of the Bible is from a thrift shop for like $2 is what I got it for. And it's illustrated. So they have the actual Gnostic gospel illustrations in the book, which 100% of other books I've seen don't do that. The Tao Te Ching, of course, that's a given. But here's something nobody knows about. Little bitty, itty bitty little pamphlet about 4 inches by 4 inches, maybe 80 pages, dude, is Writing the Ox Home, a book about Zen that doesn't drone on. In fact, you can read this in 1 hour in one sitting, and it is absolutely extraordinary. Wow. Whoever wrote this book took all of the Zen philosophies of realization and applied it to a 10-step method that can be followed every day. It's absolutely beautiful. Let's see, I've got, the Kabbalah, Apocrypha of John, of course. Let's see here.
The Herein book, that's on my list. After I'm going through the Ring Cedars of Russia first, and also Beelzebub's, and then I'm going to go into Herein. Yeah.
The Herein book lost me. I tried.
It wasn't. Okay, it wasn't. Gotcha. Okay.
Couldn't do it. I could not get any further than maybe the first chapter, dude. Gotcha. But that one was off for me. Let's see here. I know there's going to be one after we hang up that I'm like, fuck, I should have said that one. But okay, this particular one on the Gnostics, it's just called The Gnostics, but it's by Sean Martin. Another one that nobody knows about, and it's really not very well made either. It's well written though. This is more about the history of the Gnostics, if you like history, rather than just the foundation. I mean the idea behind it. Of course, I got the Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra. That's a must-have. Then there's a couple. Okay, like for example, let's see. I'm going to mention the Stargate Conspiracy. I bought it because, well, look at it, right?
It looks cool.
Sucks. The whole thing is stupid.
Wow.
It's just a big argument. The whole damn book. I regret having it. I should throw it away, but like I said, I'm a hoarder. So I got a few here by William Reich and Oregon Energy. That's certainly not a must-have, but if you know, you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Joseph Campbell has a book called The Mythic Image, and it is not only gigantic, but profusely and explained only the way that only Joseph Campbell can explain things. This book is very important, but it lives in the shadow of The Power of Myth. Everyone has seen this one, right? And this one's good too. But again, everyone knows about it. Meanwhile, the mythic image exists. Absolutely pales Power of Myth in comparison. It's that good. And that's no surprise. Joseph Campbell actually wrote The Mythic Image, whereas The Power of Myth is a transcript of his conversation. So I don't know how that one got so damn popular, because it was a conversation. He wasn't taking the time to think out what he was going to say. Right. Last one here probably is this is a must-have for anybody. This is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And rather than being a book, this is actually an ancient technology called VHS. And images come out of it if you do some weird shit with it that's magical. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off was the original Fight Club for people who like that kind of philosophy, and is one of the most important psychological esoteric movies of all time. What's important about it is that they don't tell you it's psychologically esoteric. It's hidden in the movie, and it's also enjoyable by people who just don't care about the deeper meaning of things. It's a fun movie. Okay. When it comes to alchemy, the Splendor Solus is good, but the reason I love this one is because of how beautifully illustrated it is. I don't like what they have to say in the book. But if you want the alchemical diagrams unadulterated, that's your book. Let's see here. This one is a little bit better when it comes to alchemy and explaining things, the art of alchemy, which is also these things I've started calling museum books because they're actually based on having illustrations. So it doesn't read like a regular book. So I like that concept of doing a museum book. And I'm almost wondering if my next one might be that way. And speaking of what you said earlier, another must have that you'll not understand, but you got to have it anyway, is the Universal One.
Yeah, that one's right behind me too.
Walter Russell, you got it too?
Oh yeah, yep, it's right behind me. That's one where I get like 3 or 4 chapters in. I feel like I have to stop and like digest, and then it's a year later, and I feel like I have to restart it. But no, one of the books on my list is the Secret of Life by Walter Russell, which is a little easier to read. I've read that one through a couple of times, and it's amazing.
Will you text me after this with a link to that book because I want that one? I can't understand this one.
Okay, yeah, Secret of Light. It's he wrote it like 30 years later. Yeah, and he corrects a couple of mistakes that he made.
Okay.
Back then.
Oh, good. Honorable mention for crazy shit. Our Cosmic Ancestors, Maurice Chaitlin. It's awesome. It's a little crazy, but all right. I want to mention this one because this one is special and it's very dear to my heart. This book is called Nothing in This Book is True, but It's Exactly How Things Are. And this is my cup of tea when it comes to just sitting down and enjoying a book. You're not trying to study. You just want to have a good time. This guy looks at all of the crazy shit and then writes what is seemingly a fiction based on those things and then states them as if they are fact. But the book cover clarifies that it is not. The whole book is just a huge paradox that is beautifully done. Let's see. I got some Zachariah Sitchin. That can go in the trash. I'm done with that shit. Here is here's your boy, of course. Yeah. And then of course we got this guy right here.
Oh yeah.
Which if you're curious about this one, just watch my episode because the book is hard to read and it's well over $100. The reason I can't afford that shit, but the viewers are kind enough to
well, I got it for $50 on Amazon.
Did
so
you?
The price might have come down now. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
A lot better than 2000. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
I think
Somebody Else is on the Moon by George Leonard is all of your moon questions about weird shit and illustrated. Man, I think that's about it. Hold on a second. Let's see. Okay. I got these huge books by Joseph Campbell that are like the Mythic Image, but they're just like these gigantic ones. Okay, last one. Where's it at? This is all right, when it comes to aliens and shit. Passport to the Cosmos, by John Mack. This one is a must-have for anybody paranormal, because he describes the intellectual side of abduction or whatever. And honestly, the only other one I can think of to talk about right now is Magic Eye, which also is a must-have for. It's not, but one of my faves. I don't know. You could get me going on forever over here in this section, but that's about it. Those are the ones that really that made my head spin.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I'll be taking down a list when I'm doing post-production on this, or the minimal post-production. Got a lot more books. Yeah, I guess just Secret of Light would be on there for me. And then The Fourth Way by P.D. Uspensky, which is a student of Gurdjieff. That would be another one I've read a couple times through, it's very deeply, all the Gurdjieff stuff is deeply, deeply psychological, right. which I appreciate. And then I guess I don't know what one be beyond that. But yeah, anyway, that was great, man. I really appreciate that. I know the listeners do too. So I guess we'll go ahead and begin to close out, and maybe sometime in the future I'll have you back on when the live stream actually works, and maybe we'll open up the phone lines and such. But yeah,
Sure.
any closing thoughts for the listeners? Anything you'd like to plug? What's coming next for Library of the Untold?
I'm going to be diving into the science and mysticism based on that Talbot book coming up here. But everything that you can possibly find that I've ever done, the YouTube episodes, music, everything is on libraryoftheuntold.com, and actually really easy to find there. In fact, libraryoftheuntold.com has my entire list of episodes from newest to oldest in a row for people who just don't want to be searching all over YouTube and the algorithm for it. But also all of my music and music videos are there as well.
Perfect. And yeah, you will be hearing Joey's music here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. So you'll become very familiar with that, and be joined. Obviously there's metal music I play on here, but I like to find there's an artist. His name's Jay Cooper. The band's his band, one man band like you. They dwell beneath the temples, and he overlays metal. Bill Cooper's voice is perfect overlaid with metal. So like I've got a bunch of that in there where it's just Bill Cooper talking over metal, and your music will go great right alongside that side of that stuff. But Joey, it's been great, man. I really appreciate it. And we'll have to do this again sometime. And yeah, Vonu Fest here coming up. Yeah, really hopefully looking forward to having you out here and doing some jamming. That'll be a great time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Hey, cheers, man. All right, you have a great rest of your day. All right, guys, and there you have it. Joey Phipps from the Library of the Untold here on the Vonu Podcast. Streamed, supposed to be streamed live here on the PAZNIA Radio Network. But yeah, Joey is planning on coming out to Vonu Fest, so please do consider making the trip out. Like I said in the beginning, it is a vetted event, so yeah, you do have to get vetted. Email me, coordinator@PAZNIA.com, and we'll make it happen. You're going to want to make it out. I don't like to tease too much because things happen, but Sky Huddleston, Breakthrough Energy Pioneer, is planning on coming again. Another one of our energy guys up in Michigan is coming. He's got a bunch of really cool. We've been to his shop, and he's got a bunch of electrical and magnetic healing devices that he's hopefully gonna bring out. And yeah, it's shaping up to be a really great event. So just go to PAZNIA.com/VonuFest. That is the main place for all of our events. And again, Vonu Fest is September 22nd to 29th this year. PAZNIA.com is the home for all things Vonu. VonuPodcast.com is the home for all things. PAZNIA.com is home for all things PAZNIA, and VonuPodcast.com is home for all things Vonu, and for archives of everything released via the PAZNIA Radio Network. And LiberatorAttack.com is the home for Liberator Attack publications, books, privacy tools, things like ghost pads and ghost phones, health and wellness items, and more. To take us out, this is Carnate by Void Stares Back. Void Stares Back being Joey's music. But don't go anywhere. Cloak and Dagger begins with Thane Riddle, 3 p.m. Central. I guess I don't have to read that because we are not live. But in the meantime, enjoy the music and the PAZNIA Radio Network deprogramming. Cheers from the Veritas node of the second.
Giving into it, feeding into it, buried into my own head in here, finding rest in it, seeing circles and squares, and looking into it like it is. We'll walk up to the end, dive into the abyss, fly away as if there's no bottom or top. Lean into it and embrace the ladder between the pillars that don't stand alone. finds you. Giving polite to the test that finds you. To you I fall together, all to meet again. Your wasted life was on time. No life wasted. You're on time. Welcome to the end. Dive into the abyss. Fly away as if there's no bottom or top. Dust in our eyes until the fall. Catch wind of the light of insight, unbind you. The will pines, we go blind. Did you forget that death comes to save you? One open eye and can't see at night. Open the space above guts and skin blue. Out of the line until I die. So giving polite to the test that finds you. Giving polite to the test that finds you. Giving polite to the test that finds you. To you I fall together, all to meet again. Your wasted life. Welcome to the end. I'm diving to the end. You'll be born against the grain. You'll be subject to its game.